Should start by first saying that the only way I ever learn any of this stuff is, well, first with Udemy gave me some of the context to start asking the right questions. And then once that happened, I knew enough to say, all right, I want a one-to-many relationship. So in this example, a series will have many different stories in it, but a story can only be in one series at a time, at least in this early version. A crossover series, we'll deal with that later. So right now, it's a one-to-many relationship. Many stories all belong to one series. So what does an example of that look like? The way our database works, I know enough to know that SQL alchemy is how I'm talking to my database. So it's Python, and so I don't need to learn how to do this in SQL. Instead, I just find a relationship here with a parent and child, and so I start looking over these examples, and they'll explain some of the differences. This is not a large section, and I just figure out from here how I put this together. So in this example, we'll have one parent can have many children, and the child will only have one parent. And so that's a one-to-many relationship. So now we're talking a difference about back populates. Okay, so a parent has children, and this back populates the child's parent relationship, and that'll fill in. So this is the example that we want to have. I've literally just pasted in here parent ID. The series is actually the parent, so series ID, and parent is actually the series ID. So it's going to use the ID from its series in order to establish this relationship. And the parent, this is, so this one is actually a property. This will be a table this will be a column in the database. And we write it as db.column. And here, this is a db.relationship. I just import the DB. They actually import the database's column object, the database's relationship object. I typically just import the DB, and then I'll just say, hey, get the relationship from the database. The relationship, function in order to connect the two. And a column is a thing, so it gets a capital letter. The relationship is an action. I want you to string this one together with this thing. Anyway, so this relationship, we'll use the series ID, and the relationship here, parent will be series, and this back populates stories. And that is how this fills in this guy. Chapter back populates series, that's how it gets filled in, and series ID. Now, why am I still getting an error? Oh, right, because again, db.integer, get the integer object from the database. Yeah. And foreign key, I imagine, is also db.foreign key. Yeah, because how else will it know what a foreign key, what I mean by a foreign key? So db. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we have series connected to stories. Series connected to stories, yep. Now we need to do the same thing with chapters connected to stories. So, it's same parent-child relationship. In fact, I still have it copied here. Chapters, wait, that shouldn't be in here. Alright, let me just replace this with what I have pasted. So this would be story ID is a database column using a database integer object and a database foreign key, and it will access the story ID, and the story relationship. So this one, this is where we will write down the ID to sustain the link. And the relationship here is written as the story, and it populates chapters. And just like how this series back-populated, oh, and this series doesn't story. Yeah. Okay. And now chapter over here, and story chapters. I already have this set up, right? Populate story. Yep, actually that looks fine. So let's go through this. A series have many stories in them, and this relationship will fill in the stories series. So you can see the series inside the story object, and it establishes that relationship. It back populates stories, and this, because it's the only type here, it knows that this is how the connection is written down. Because it sees this link, that's how it knows which is which. And same thing happens here. We have a parent story has many chapters, and it back populates the single story item. This isn't plural because we have one story that it's connected to, and it back populates the chapters. Yep. So database relationship is there. I see no errors in the file. We should be able to create one of these guys. Okay, I've activated the service. I'm going into the StarSite folder. I am now going to run the server. And what? Access is already in use because it's running on a different file and I can't see. There's a different bash window that's running this that I can't see. And that's no fun because it means I can't access the... Well, let's see. Let's go into init.py and we will add in more administrative views so that we can edit all of these things. Series, story, chapter. So series, story, and chapter. How does it know what a series and story and chapter are? Those are different files. Well, right here, we will say from story.models, import series, story, and chapter. Now these are in the database. Saving this file should have just made the server reboot in whatever bash window you have access to that I don't. And so now if I preview this running application, I need to log in, and I need to log in with a password that you have in private.py. Okay, logging in here. Invalid password. Still invalid password. Okay, let's try this now. There we go. Save that. And now, do we have an admin window? Admin. Yes. And now we can see series, story, and chapter. And so let's try to create one. So we'll create a new series. And the title of the series will be called The Dawn Lancer. And side title is I don't know. The mystery in the center of the galaxy. Okay, cool. Description, blah, blah, blah. No MiGs, no slug, published date, anytime will do fine. Published in the future, this month. Yeah, it's live, that's cool. There are no stories yet in this series. So, save. All right, we have a series in our database now, and we can create a story, and we'll connect it to series 1. It doesn't. That's inconvenient. Series 1 isn't a very good representation of our story. So what we need to do is inside story represent, instead of story, series. Series, we have no represent function. So let's represent this series, and we'll have series, and then we'll just access the title. If there's no title, it'll throw an error. So we could say, if there's a title, give it like this. Otherwise, just give the ID. And that way, in case you ever made one without a title by accident or something, it wouldn't throw an error. It would just have a blank title. But meanwhile, if I reload this, and I see the different stories, I can now see it has a name. So series, The Dawn Lancer. It has no chapters or story yet. The title, The Dawn Lancer is a story. First one is a lance, I don't know, the lance, whatever. To do description, blah, 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 and sure it's live. I'll give it a date just in case, and save. Cool. Now if I go back to series and I edit this, does it see its story? Yep. So it does see that it has a story. But right now I realize we need some way to track the order of the stories in the series. So we need to add a new field inside story for that just is a number. So a db integer, and this is order in series. Just to be real clear about it, it's not a primary key. So order in series. Maybe I'll put this after the description. All right, and because I'm adding a new column, I'll need to delete and restart the database and rebuild the database. But I can't do that with you already having one running. So I'm stuck. And if I save this now, it'll throw all sorts of errors if I try to now look at the story. Yeah, because it doesn't exist. So I need to either migrate the table or rebuild it. And to do that, it's really easy. You just need to follow the steps listed right here, and that should take care of it.